Hi, I'm Olivia. One day I met Adrian, who told me a very strange love story. I knew some of the details, but he told me even more. It was a very cold evening in New York City, but the love story I learned about gave me a very special kind of warmth. It is a true love story, but it is the very rare kind that I have always longed for. I think that each of us wishes to experience a love story like it. I never expected that a simple conversation would change the way I saw love. But that night, one story, shared by a stranger, made me realize that love can transcend time, fear, and even death. And that maybe, just maybe, it could exist for me too. My art gallery was filled with people. The walls were covered with my paintings, each one telling a story. I stood in the corner watching the visitors as they moved from one painting to another. Most of them glanced quickly, smiled, and moved on. But one man caught my attention. He stood in front of a painting I had titled The Horizon. It showed a ship sinking into the vast, dark sea. On the deck, a man and a woman stood locked in a tight embrace, their faces calm yet filled with emotion. Behind them, the setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and red, symbolizing both beauty and tragedy, the end of the ship and perhaps the end of their journey together. The waves crashed around the ship, but the couple seemed untouched by the chaos, as if their love was the only thing that mattered in that moment. I watched him from a distance, intrigued by how intently he studied the painting. Most people glanced at it, briefly sighed, and moved on. But he was different. He leaned closer, his eyes tracing every detail, the brushstrokes of the waves, the fading light, the expressions on the couple's faces. It was as if he were trying to uncover the story behind the painting. Finally, I couldn't resist. I walked over and stood beside him. "It's one of my favorites," I said softly, breaking the silence. He turned to me, his eyes still lingering on the painting. "It's powerful," he said. "The way they're holding each other, it's like they've accepted their fate, but they're not afraid." I nodded, surprised by his insight. That's exactly what I wanted to capture, love in the face of loss. He looked at me, his gaze thoughtful. "Did you base this on a true story?" I hesitated for a moment. Not intentionally, but sometimes art has a way of telling truths we don't even realize. He smiled faintly, his eyes returning to the painting. "It reminds me of something I once read. A story about a couple who chose to stay together even when they knew the end was near." I felt a shiver run through me. "What happened to them?" He paused, as if deciding how much to share. "They were on a ship, a famous one. When it sank, they were offered a chance to survive, but they chose to stay together. They died in each other's arms." I stared at the painting, seeing it in a new light. The couple on the deck, the sinking ship, the setting sun, it all suddenly felt more real, more profound. "I didn't know that story when I painted this," I admitted, "but now it feels like they're a part of it." He nodded. "Maybe they are. Maybe your painting is their tribute." I looked at him curious. "You seem to know a lot about this. What's your name?" He smiled warmly. "Adrian, and you must be the artist." "I'm Olivia," I said, extending my hand. "It's nice to meet someone who sees more than just paint on a canvas." He shook my hand, his grip firm but gentle. It's nice to meet someone who paints more than just pictures. You paint emotions, Olivia, and that's rare. Adrian pointed to the painting, where two figures stood embracing, surrounded by water. They remind me of a story I once read. It was an extraordinary love between a couple. They were a couple on the sinking RMS Titanic. Have you ever heard of Isidore and Ida Strauss? I felt my heart skip a beat. I knew exactly what he was talking about. Isidore and Ida Strauss were a real couple, their love story forever tied to the Titanic's tragic end. But I wanted to hear him tell it. So I whispered, "No, I haven't. Who were they? Tell me more." As Adrian began to speak, my mind wandered to my own thoughts about love. I had always believed that love was something beautiful yet fragile, something that could break easily under pressure. But as I listened to him describe Isidore and Ida's choice to stay together until the very end, I realized there was a kind of love that was stronger than fear, stronger than anything else. The kind of love that I had always secretly hoped for but never dared to believe could exist. They chose to stay together even when the world around them was falling apart. Adrian said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Their love was stronger than their instinct to survive. I looked at the painting again, the couple on the deck holding each other as the ship sank beneath them. In that moment, I wasn't just seeing paint on a canvas. I was seeing something more, a reflection of a love I had always longed for but had never found. Could love like that still exist? Could it survive in today's world where everything felt so temporary? I thought about my own experiences with love, brief moments of passion that faded too quickly, relationships that ended before they had a chance to grow. None of them had ever made me feel like the couple in my painting. None of them had made me feel that love could transcend time, fear, or even death. Adrian's words brought me back to the present. Their love was stronger than fear, he said. I felt a shiver run down my spine. That's incredibly sad, I replied, but deep inside I felt something more. It was beautiful too, beautiful because it showed me that love could be eternal. That maybe I had been looking for it in the wrong places all along. Adrian nodded, still looking at the painting. You captured it perfectly. It's rare to see love like that, and you've brought it to life. For a moment we stood in silence, both of us lost in the story the painting told. The gallery around us faded, and all that remained was the painting and the quiet understanding we seemed to share. Adrian turned to me, his eyes soft and thoughtful. Do you think love like that still exists? I hesitated for just a second, searching his gaze. There was something about him, something that made me feel like I could trust him, like he understood not only my art, but the unspoken feelings behind it. I smiled, a warmth spreading through me that I hadn't felt in a long time. I think it does, I said quietly, if we're lucky enough to find it. He held my gaze a moment longer, and in that brief exchange I felt a spark, something subtle but undeniable. His smile matched mine, gentle and knowing, as if we had both discovered something we hadn't expected to find tonight. We stood there side by side as the world moved on around us. In that moment, it felt like we were the only two people in the gallery, connected by the story on the canvas and something more, something that had just begun to form between us.